And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox as we approach the bottom of the hour here on this Friday night. Authorities there in Alaska right now live giving an update on the deadly plane crash that took the lives of 10 people. It took off just yesterday afternoon, and it was reported missing. It had been reported disappeared, and now, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, it has been found, the wreckage of it. We're getting more and more reaction on social media, including from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy. He says, say a prayer tonight for the 10 souls who lost their lives on the Bering Air flight in Alaska. He says, I spoke to Senator Sullivan and Murkowski to offer the department's full support. We also are hearing from Senator Lisa Murkowski, the Republican. She says, my heart is broken over the news out of Nome. Alaska is a big, small town. When tragedy strikes, we're never far removed from the Alaskans directly impacted. She says, but that also means we come together as a community to grieve and heal. She says, we're deeply grateful to the Alaska National Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, the Nome Volunteer Fire Department, the Alaska State Troopers, and all those who braved dangerous conditions to conduct the search for the downed aircraft. All of Alaska is praying for the families and friends of those who lost loved ones, for the Bering Air family, and the communities of Unalakleet and Nome. That was the small Alaskan village where the flight originated there on its way to Nome. We're also hearing, I believe, from the NTSB. They say they're launching a GO team to investigate Thursday's crash of a Cessna 208 Caravan near Nome, Alaska, saying updates will be on their website, ntsb.com. In the meantime here, we do want to let you listen into a seemingly virtual but in person, also kind of hybrid update that just wrapped up with officials there in Alaska about this particular plane crash. Let's watch.
Noon or so, this was a search. In this case, the NTSB kind of takes a back seat and we just monitor. But unfortunately now, since the wreckage has been found and 10 fatalities, it's time for us to roll our sleeves and go to work, unfortunately. Right now, it's my understanding that Stacia is on scene at the accident site with the Coast Guard. She's going to start her initial documentation of the site, trying to go ahead and document some of that perishable evidence. We also have quite a team that's headed from various locations around the United States here. We're going to have at least...
Sorry to interrupt. You had paused. I think Starlink was searching for a new connection.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
You had paused for a little while. If you don't mind restarting your last few statements.
Okay, sure. So presently, right now, we understand that Stacia Joyce, the NTSB investigator that we launched up there early this morning, is on scene with the Coast Guard. Her intent is to document the site to the best of her ability. Some pretty rough conditions, obviously, but what she's going to be doing is documenting that perishable evidence and start the investigation. We do have quite a contingent of folks that are headed to Alaska. Right now, the count is at 9 people, 9 different disciplines, anywhere from an investigator in charge that we're bringing out of our central region, 1 additional investigator. So we have quite a contingent headed to Nome at this point right now. So that's kind of where we are at this point. As the senator mentioned, our chair, Jennifer Hamady, is en route. She'll be here tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to see if we can possibly get her up to Nome as well. So that's where we are, and I'll take any questions at this point right now. One last thing, we are very much in the preliminary stages of this investigation, and we're just getting going on it at this point right now.
Thank you, Clint. If you can remain on the line, we'll take questions shortly here. We have one more speaker. I'd like to invite Bridie Traynor with North-South Health Corporation to provide an update.
Thank you. On behalf of North-South Health Corporation, LeadFIC, Behavioral Health Services, our hearts are with all of our communities, families, providers, responders across Alaska and and beyond. We know how strong we are in tough times. DHS staff is available now from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and through the weekend on the third floor of the hospital for anyone from anywhere. We have a community sports circle in Nome tonight at LiveNOW from 6 to 8. We have very strong village-based counselors in each community to give support. Clinicians will continue providing support in Nome and traveling to each site. We'll be working to debrief with first responders as well. Folks can call LiveNOW at 907-443-3344 or after hours at 907-443-6411. There are many support lines available like the Crisis Lifeline at 988. You can see community notices online and elsewhere for all the resources and contact information. Again, our communities are very strong, especially in tough times, and people are no stranger to hardship. We draw on the strength and wisdom of land, animals, spirit, ancestors, and each other to guide us through anything. We have all the resources we need to work through this or anything else, come out stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now take questions from reporters in the room and then online. If you're reporting with a question online, please put your name in the Zoom chat so that we may call upon you. We'll first start with the room. Any questions here in the room? Zach.
Zach Hughes, ABN. I'm curious, the staging area was out, the road was constructed or graded out to get there. If there are plans yet for beginning to move material off the ice for personnel out there from that point, or if they'll be leaving from town to access the crash site?
They'll be accessing it from air. It's a 15-minute flight exactly from the hangar to the site.
And then will that be with helos?
With helicopters, yeah. That's the only way to. And it's slushy young ice, so it's not stable.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the room before we move on?
Yeah, could you walk us through the recovery process? Where it goes on from here?
Well, right now we have guys out there detangling the mess and trying to get everything situated so we could bring folks home. We don't know how long that's going to take. Could go hours, could go potentially days. Our timeline right now is good with the weather, and coming up tomorrow, we have about 18 hours worth of potential recovery time. The other obstacle that we have is the guard cannot fly during night operations, so we'll have to wait. If we can't get everything done, we'll have to spool back up in the morning to continue on.
So what is your window of time? Because I understand there might be inclement weather coming in again.
It is, according to the weather maps that we have, yes, bad weather is coming. So we're working the fastest way and the safest way to get everyone home. Hope that answers your question.
And we'll move to a question online. Hank, are you able to ask your question?
Yeah, hi. Excuse me. Any update as to the possible reason for the swift drop in elevation that the plane experienced, as previously mentioned in a previous press conference with the Coast Guard?
At this time, we only can assume, but that will be under investigation.
Does the NTSB have a response to Hank?
Yeah, so obviously that's going to be part of our investigation. The ADSB data that the airplane was transmitting back to the various ground transfer to ATC We're going to be analyzing that data. We have the ability to be able to drill down into that data, and our vehicle recorder folks back in DC are able to give us a little bit better of an idea of the last moments of the flight. But again, that's part of the investigation, and we're just getting rolling on that right now.
Sarah with CNN, can you ask a question?
Yeah. Do you know if the search and rescue team is currently on the ice doing recovery mission?
They are on the ice as we speak.
Thank you.
Is there any further questions in the room or online? Hi, Roy.
Good afternoon. Is there any effort to consider putting floats on this plane? Because I just heard the ice conditions are dynamic, that if situations change, this may sink. So I don't know if there's a plan for that or a strategy to try to hang on to this thing if things change.
At this time, we're looking into that. Yeah, like you said, it's dynamic. The conditions out there are dynamic, and so we've got to do it safely and the fastest way we can.
So is there a plan to get the wreckage off the plane if weather holds?
At this time, yes, we're shooting. Hopefully, the Blackhawk will be able to sling the wreckage out. But there again, we want to remove everybody first before we do that. Try to anyway.
Thank you. Any further questions in the room or online? None online. Any closing statements? Otherwise, we'll close this press conference. Thank you. Thank you all for coming.
All right, Alaskan officials there in the city of Nome updating us on this deadly plane crash that killed 10 people, describing the conditions on the sea ice where the crash occurred there as particularly dynamic. That's the word they're using to describe the conditions there on the sea ice as the crash site is still being worked on there to retrieve some of these bodies. And it's just a sad set of affairs here. The third aviation crash and mishap here on LiveNOW in the last, 2 weeks that I have brought to you, unfortunately. But we will be following up on this story, monitoring this story throughout the course of the weekend here. Remember, the U.S. Coast Guard in Alaska put out that photo of the crash there on the sea ice. This was a trip about 150 miles from this small village to Nome, Alaska, and about an hour into the flight disappeared and the signal was lost. The flight took off yesterday, Thursday afternoon, and until just about 3 hours ago, it was declared missing, had disappeared, and then the U.S. Coast Guard told us they had found the site, that they had recovered 3 bodies, that they had said that the remaining bodies were too difficult to extricate from the wreckage of the plane itself, and that effort is still ongoing. And then you heard from that official that once that process is done, they're attempting that process, they hope to recover all the remaining bodies, that some type of other aircraft will pick up the wreckage itself and take it to a more sturdy, solid footing. Remember, this is sea ice. It's very volatile. Not entirely sure how thick the sea ice is, but that is what they are working with when they say the conditions right now are dynamic. So wanted to make sure we got all of that in there. I'm Andrew Kraft. Let's take a quick commercial break. More where that came from on this Friday night in 2 minutes.